Mr. Speaker, I rise in opposition to this continuing resolution. We had a strong bipartisan and bicameral agreement among the leadership of both parties at both ends of the Capitol to avert a disastrous and pointless government shutdown, to provide desperately needed disaster aid and emergency assistance, and to provide Congress with the time required to enact full-year funding bills for fiscal year 2025, which is our responsibility. That bill was a result of a compromise. There were things in it Democrats liked and Republicans did not. There were things in it Republicans liked that Democrats would have preferred to leave out. But that is the nature of government funding bills. They require compromise, which we did, which we accomplished, and the support of Democrats and Republicans in the House and in the Senate in order to become the law of the land. That was true throughout the 118th Congress, despite Republicans' repeated and failed efforts to write extreme and partisan funding bills. And that will be true in the 119th Congress as well. We are on the cusp of an agreement to move this country forward. But 2 days ago, a multi-billionaire with apparently no working knowledge of our government or of appropriations, someone who was a self-appointed president of the United States, Elon Musk, issued a marching order for House Republicans to go against their own elected leadership. Shut down the government. Shut down the government. House Republicans are responsible for any harm and uncertainty brought upon the American people. And should some get their wish for a month-long government shutdown, they will be responsible for cleaning up their mess come Inauguration Day. Indeed, we are in completely unprecedented times when someone who has no knowledge of government, who has no knowledge of an appropriations process, who is external to the House of Representatives, can make his weight felt here in turning what was a bill that was on its way, a bipartisan bill, a bicameral bill, was on its way to achieving its goal of keeping the U.S. government open. And the goal, actually, is providing services to American citizens, to working families, middle-class families, vulnerable families, where our responsibility lies. The world's richest man, reaping billions in government contracts, is calling the shots in the Republican Party. At the behest of the world's richest man, who no one voted for, the United States Congress has been thrown into pandemonium. It leads you to the question of who is in charge. I thought that there was a Republican majority in this body, not a President Musk majority. We had a bill on Tuesday that was the result of a year and a half of work, and which had the input, as I've said, of Republicans and Democrats. It represented their interests, the interests of their constituents, their concerns, the needs of their constituents. The bill had no such bipartisan. This bill that we're discussing right now has no such bipartisan input. This was no deal or no agreement, except for among a small group of House Republicans. The bill removes key provisions to limit the power of pharmaceutical companies. That means our prescription drug prices and what happens to the rising prescription drug prices, which families can't get to in order to be able to deal with any illness they have or to save their lives. It removes the provisions to protect SNAP recipients, people at risk of hunger, from the theft of their benefits. It struck a provision from our colleague Congresswoman Wexton to support research into treatments and cures for childhood cancer. For childhood cancer. I'm a cancer survivor. I know what it means to have a cancer diagnosis. I know what it means when parents say your child has cancer. And we want to remove the provision that supports research into treatments and cures for childhood cancer. It drops necessary pandemic preparedness and response programs, including the Strategic National Stockpile. I know something that my colleagues on the other side of the aisle are very concerned about and always work to protect what we do with the Strategic National Stockpile. Also, it drops the necessary efforts for our hospital preparedness programs. And that's hospitals all over the country. And I might add, where that's really a big problem is in rural America and hospitals, which were clamoring for these efforts. And as well, shortchanges programs to prepare for future public health emergencies like bird flu, which we now know is striking people on the west coast of this country, California. This bill also abandons our bipartisan efforts to ensure American dollars and intellectual property are reinvested in American businesses and workers instead of fueling the Chinese Communist Party's technology and capabilities. I am deeply disappointed that this bipartisan priority was abandoned after President Elon Musk bullied Republicans into going back on their word. Musk, who got rich off of $20 billion in federal contracts for his companies, he now makes half of his company's cars at Tesla. Tesla's $7 billion plant is in Shanghai. He clearly does not want to have to answer any questions about how much he plans to expand his business and businesses in China, and how many American technologies he plans to sell to the highest bidder. As chapter and verse, many more pieces of fact about his relationship with China. And he has spent last few years cozying up to the Chinese Communist Party to protect his own business interests. The fight is not over. This is something that simply must be done to safeguard our supply chains and our critical capabilities. American policy should be set on behalf of America's workers, not billionaires who cozy up to communist China. We must immediately return to considering the bipartisan, bicameral compromise legislation that Speaker Johnson, Leader Schumer, Leader Jeffries, Leader McConnell, and I might add, the four corners of the Appropriations Committee. That means the chair of the House Appropriations Committee, myself as ranking member in the Senate, the chair of the Senate Appropriations Committee, Senator Murray, and the chair of the ranking member on the Senate side of Appropriations, Senator Susan Collins. This is the group that constructed the deal on behalf of the American public. And those services are now being shortchanged. We must unequivocally reject the illegitimate oligarchy that seeks to usurp the authority of the United States Congress and of the American people. I reserve the balance of my time.